The story begins with a husband and wife who appear in a documentary that reveals their personal lives. Their marriage was getting worse by the day, and it was revealed that they met while working in the group Queens before getting married. Hae-in, who is the daughter of a conglomerate, disguises herself as an intern at her father's company, which is part of the Queens group. She often acted annoying and careless, making Hae-in-woo, who would later become her husband, often have to help her. Hae-in thinks Hae-in-woo likes her, and Hae-in-woo finally admits that he is starting to like Hae-in. After spending a lot of time together at work, they grew closer. Hae-in-woo initially thought Hae-in came from a poor family, but he didn't care because he loved her so much. Hae-in-woo's mother urges her son to marry Hae-in immediately if he is serious. However, their relationship is destroyed when Hae-in-woo finds out Hae-in's true identity as the heir to the Queen's group. Even so, Hae-in dramatically visits Hae-in-woo in his hometown by helicopter and assures him that she won't make him sad. Ironically, their marriage actually makes Hae-in-woo far from happy and full of sadness. Even though Hae-in-woo admits in public that he still loves Hae-in, he actually wants a divorce. After 3 years of marriage, Hae-in-woo and Hae-in's personalities and social positions are completely opposite. Hae-in is very cold and an annoying boss at the Queen's supermarket, while Hae-in-woo, the legal director of the Queen's group, is very kind and considerate of others. At home, most of the decisions are made by Hae-in's parents, and Hae-in-woo has no power or right to say anything, as he is not considered in the family. Even Hae-in's younger brother, Soo-cheol, doesn't respect him. Hae-in-woo always vents his sadness with alcohol and confides in his lawyer friends. Apart from that, he is always monitored by Hae-in's family spies who make sure he doesn't make any mistakes that are detrimental to the company. The whole family mourns on the anniversary of Hae-in's late grandmother, wife of the long-dead chairman of the Queen's group. It seems that Hae-in's grandfather, the leader of the Queen's group Mande, already has a girlfriend named Sul-hee who the family doesn't like. Aunt Hae-in really hates Sul-hee, thinking that the woman is only after her father's wealth. With a heart full of sadness, Hae-in-woo rejected Hae-in's invitation to go together and decided to return to his hometown. After talking to her parents about her desire to divorce Hae-in, her family disagrees, but they can't determine her future. Back home, Hae-in-woo brings the divorce papers to Hae-in's room, but before he can deliver the news, Hae-in reveals that doctors diagnosed him with a brain tumor and only has 3 months left to live. Surprised, Hae-in-woo immediately hugged Hae-in and confessed his love. When Hae-in-woo rejects her invitation, Hae-in experiences hallucinations before finally arriving at the doctor's office and finding out that she has a rare tumor that cannot be cured. The disease causes hallucinations, headaches, and memory loss. Hae-in-woo realizes that sooner or later, he will separate from Hae-in without a divorce, but divorcing her is not easy and will definitely cause problems in the future. In addition, Hae-in's relationship with her mother was very bad because her mother loved her youngest son more. So Hae-in wanted to keep her illness a secret from everyone except Hae-in-woo. After the incident, Hae-in-woo meets his lawyer friend and tells him about Hae-in's illness. They rejoiced at the fact that Hae-in-woo was able to escape from the Queen's family unharmed. Hae-in-woo then thinks about winning Hae-in's love so he can get a share of her inheritance. He starts to act more considerate towards Hae-in, but the change in attitude makes him look suspicious. Hae-in's parents lost their first child in the past and considered Hae-in to be the cause of the child's death, so Hae-in did not receive love from her mother, which then damaged their relationship. Hae-in-woo looked for information about Hae-in's disease on the internet and was disappointed to find that there were many possibilities that the disease could be cured. When Hae-in comes into the room and sees Hae-in-woo already asleep, he mistakes the search for a sign of concern. Hae-in then hilariously announces her determination to survive so that her husband won't be sad, without realizing that Hae-in-woo actually wants to separate from him immediately. Hae-in attended an event to expand his business relationships, where he succeeded in getting the famous brand Hersina into his Pazer Raya. At the event, he met his ex-girlfriend, Eun-seom, who is now successful and a close colleague of the owner of her Sina. Hae-in tries to renew her friendship with Eun-song, which makes Hyun-woo feel uncomfortable. Because of Eun-song's potential, the Queen's family invites him to a family hunting event, which further disturbs Hyun-woo's feelings seeing his wife close to another man. While trying to get the highest number of catches to prove his abilities, Hae-in gets lost and experiences hallucinations. When a wild boar almost attacks him, Hyun-woo arrives in time to save him. In the past, Hyun-woo once took Hae-in around his hometown to show that he could provide for her. When he still thought Hae-in came from a poor family, Hae-in increasingly falls in love with Hyun-woo, who promises to always be there for her no matter what happens. Remembering this moment, Hae-in wonders why the memories came back when the wild boar attacked her. When returning to camp, Hae-in's leg is injured and Hyun-woo carries her, surprising the entire family. Hyun-woo checks the area where Hae-in was attacked and finds that the fence has been damaged. The attack appears to be deliberate and the original target is Mande, but the wild boar attacks Hae-in, who happens to be on his grandfather's hunting trail. The Queen's family is full of influential people. Soo-cheol's wife, Dae, is the daughter of a famous American professor and seems like the perfect daughter-in-law because she doesn't drink alcohol. However, unbeknownst to her husband, Dae has a very different personality and often nags him because Soo-cheol is so talkative. After everyone returns, Eun-song tells Hae-in that he has set up a meeting with her Sina's CEO to help get the brand into his supermarket. However, Eun-song seems to have an ulterior motive, even meeting Grace, the Queen's family secretary, with suspicious behavior. After learning about her illness, Hae-in begins to change for the better. He begins to show empathy and helps the people around him, even though he still has a somewhat arrogant style. The doctor explains that these changes often occur in people with terminal illnesses because they start to notice things they didn't notice before, and this makes Hae-in start to see her husband in a different way. Back home, Hyun-woo's brother's boxing business is in decline, and Hyun-woo's two brothers try to save the business. They decided to persuade Hae-in not to divorce, but could only convey this intention via message because Hae-in was having an important meeting with the CEO of her Sina. They didn't know that Hyun-woo kept his divorce intentions a secret from Hae-in because of her illness. Hyun-woo tries to call Hae-in, but can't reach her. Meanwhile, Hae-in comes to the meeting and finds out that the CEO has left to handle other matters. He has dinner with Eun-song, who gives him details about her Sina and how to win over the CEO to get his brand into Pazer Raya. Eun-song secretly turns off Hae-in's cell phone when Hyun-woo tries to call. It's clear that Eun-song still likes Hae-in and wants to destroy her marriage with Hyun-woo. Hae-in hasn't read the message from Hyun-woo's brother. Because of this, Hyun-woo tried to delete the message and entered the room while Hae-in was in the bathroom. He tried several combinations of numbers to open Hae-in's cell phone and succeeded in deleting messages from her sister. After the incident, Hyun-woo is shocked to realize that Hae-in's cell phone pin is 1031, which refers to their baby's birth date in the past, namely October 31st. This incident reawakens Hyun-woo's love for his wife. As time went by, Hyun-woo began to feel that his wife looked more beautiful than usual. One time, he even screamed in the middle of the mall when his wife almost fell on an escalator. After that incident, he bought new shoes for his wife to make her walk more comfortable. Hyun-woo tells this to his lawyer friend, who thinks that Hyun-woo might still love Hae-in, although Hyun-woo denies it. Elsewhere, Hae-in and Eun-song meet the owner of her Sina and manage to make a business deal. Another good news came from an organization in Germany that could help overcome Hae-in's disease. Hae-in conveys this news to Hyun-woo, who then feels a dilemma. If he didn't divorce Hae-in, he would have to tolerate her family and in-laws making him uncomfortable, but if he divorced her, Hae-in might not just let him go. Even though Hyun-woo always denies his feelings for Hae-in, he feels uneasy and jealous seeing his wife discussing business with Eun-song. After observing for a long time, Hyun-woo told his friend that something was wrong with Eun-song. Meanwhile, Soo-cheol tries to approach Eun-song in hopes of getting investment funds, but Eun-song is not interested. A few moments later, Unsong, Grace, and one of the workers in the Queen's group conspired to plan something big against the Queen's group. It turns out, Unsong's meeting with Hae-in was not a coincidence because everything was planned. Unsong and his gang collect Queen's shares to take over the group and plan various ways to bring down Mandae. In Hae-in-woo's hometown, his father ran for village head, but his campaign was less than successful. Hae-in-woo's desperate brother seeks help from Hae-in, who then comes to the village and throws an impromptu party as a show of support for his father-in-law. While reminiscing about the past in Hae-in-woo's room, Hae-in is trapped in a hallucination and ends up lost in the village. Hae-in-woo, who knew this, looked for his wife frantically. After finding him, he scolds him for being worried. Hae-in says that she doesn't know how she got there, and Hae-in-woo tries to comfort her by giving her a hug. Hae-in-woo's family struggles through the rain to look for Hae-in, making him touched by their care and affection, something he never got from his own family. Hae-in and Hae-in-woo feel awkward when they are in the same room, although Hae-in-woo is still attracted to Hae-in despite trying not to fall in love again. Meanwhile, Sucheol finds a viral video of Hae-in on the internet holding a party in Hae-in-woo's hometown. In the video, Hae-in looks happy while eating at her in-laws' house. Hae-in's mother, who saw the video, felt a little jealous of Hae-in-woo's mother because Hae-in looked happier with her. When Hae-in-woo moves away from home to avoid Hae-in, he remembers memories of 2 years ago when they lost their baby. Hae-in had a miscarriage and unilaterally cleaned the baby's room they had prepared, making Hae-in-woo feel offended and decide to sleep in the baby's room. That night, Hae-in-woo cries while Hae-in mourns and blames herself. Their relationship broke down again. As Hae-in is freshening up, she notices a line drawn on her palm and wonders why that is. Then, he met Unsong, who was invited to the Queen's family home. Unsong learns of the rift in Hae-in and Hae-in-woo's household and realizes that he must get rid of Hae-in-woo for the success of his mission. Hae-in-woo continues his investigation to solve the case of the wild boar attack. Finally, he got a car dashboard recording that could reveal the culprit, but the recording had been deleted by someone and needed to be restored first. Meanwhile, Hae-in's aunt, Beomja, who is always angry, continues to insult her father's boyfriend and accuses him of wanting to seize the Queen's family property. Disturbed, for the first time, Sulhee hits Beomja, but Mandae doesn't believe Beomja's story when she complains. After the incident, Beomja asks someone to investigate Sulhee's background. Meanwhile, Hae-in tells her doctor about her treatment plans in Germany. However, because his white blood cell count was too low, doctors explained that researchers in Germany could not help him in such a situation. Hae-in was offended because she felt like she didn't have much time to wait. Beomja, who happens to be at the hospital, accidentally learns of Hae-in's illness and feels very sad after finding out what really happened. Hae-in explained that he couldn't tell his family about his condition, not because he was afraid that his inheritance would be fought over, but because he was worried that his parents would be sad considering that they had lost their first child in the past. Despite his rough appearance, Beomja actually has a soft heart and is very worried about his nephew. Hae-in insists on going to Germany alone. Beomja, who felt sorry, asked Hae-in-woo, and it turned out that he didn't notice Hae-in leaving. Hae-in-woo's thoughts continued to be distracted until he finally saw the video of Hae-in's interview. In the video, Hae-in revealed that her dream is to achieve a sales record of 1 trillion won at her Pazer Raya, which makes her very ambitious in her work. Then, Hae-in revealed that her next dream was to rest and spend time with her husband. Hae-in-woo was very touched and decided to go to Germany to meet his wife. In a flashback, it is revealed that Hae-in-woo was the one who drew the lines on Hae-in's palm. Many people believe that hand lines determine a person's lifespan, and Hae-in-woo lengthens Hae-in's hand lines as a form of hope that she will be given a chance to live longer. In Germany, as doctors expected, researchers refused to operate on Hae-in because of her low white blood cells. Upset, Hae-in visits the place she and Hae-in-woo visited on their honeymoon, a place believed to be free from sadness. To his surprise, Hae-in-woo arrives there and apologizes to Hae-in for having to follow him. Hae-in admits that she also wants Hae-in-woo to be with her. Meanwhile, Dahai seems to be in cahoots with Eun Song and they check Hyen Woo's room. Dahai's identity turns out to be fake, and she is able to marry Soo Cheol because of Grace's interference. It turns out, Dahai was also the mastermind behind the wild boar attack, whose actions were recorded on the dashboard camera obtained by Hyen Woo. While all this is happening, Haein and Hyen Woo spend time together. Haein reveals that she had a will written before marriage, stating that Hyen Woo would not get her fortune if Haein died. Hyen Woo felt disturbed after learning the contents of the will, but then he understood that the will was a condition for Haein to get her mother's blessing to marry him. After reconciling, Hyen Woo asks Haein if he can start sleeping with her again, and Haein agrees. Jokingly, Haein continues to praise Hyen Woo for his patience, even though Hyen Woo has been trying to find a way to leave the Queen family. Hyen Woo looks for every way to help Haein, even daring to threaten the head doctor in Germany to try his best to save his wife. Not long after, Haein received good news from the research center about another possible method to help him, not realizing that this was thanks to Hyen Woo's bravery. On the other hand, Grace scolds Dahai for being careless, which was caught on the dashboard camera. Even though their relationship doesn't get along, they still try to cover up each other's mistakes for the sake of mutual success. However, even though Grace managed to delete the recording, Hyen Woo has already got the original memory and is just waiting for the results of the restoration. It seems that Dahai and Eun Song grew up in the same orphanage, which was under the auspices of the group Queen. Dahai, who is 5 years older, meets Soo Cheol and immediately proposes to him after learning that he comes from a wealthy family. However, Soo Cheol, who was still a child at that time, refused. While eating together, Byung-ja comments that Soo Cheol's son doesn't look like his father, which raises questions about the DNA test. Grace explains that there is no problem with it, but Soo Cheol is offended by the attack on his wife and son, and leaves with them. He then apologized to Dahai because he felt weak and was always underestimated by his family. Shortly before undergoing therapy, Haein hallucinates about her older brother's death and gets lost outside the hospital. After Hyen Woo finds her, Haein reveals that as children, she and her brother were involved in a shipwreck at sea. Her brother sacrificed himself to save Haein, and since then his mother has always been cold to him. The situation at the Queen's house becomes chaotic when Grace finds Hyen Woo's divorce papers and devises a plan to take him down. Eun Song and his friends frame Hyen Woo for wiretapping and trying to bring down Mandae. Meanwhile, in Germany, Haein and Hyen Woo are waiting for the results of the therapy, which will come out the next day. Haein is very happy, feels like her world is colorful again and her love is blooming again. However, that happiness was shattered when his mother informed him about Hyen Woo's divorce papers. Haein asks Hyen Woo to deny it, but he just stays silent, as if admitting the truth. Haein is shocked by Hyen Woo's betrayal and loses his motivation to survive. The hospital informed Hyen Woo that the therapy had shown no progress. Doctors explain that patients with serious illnesses often feel like ending their own lives and are in desperate need of motivation. For this reason, Hyen Woo deliberately provokes Haein by saying that he intends to betray her, hoping that this will make her angry and encourage Haein to use all her emotions in attacking Hyen Woo as a form of revenge. Meanwhile, Eun Song agrees to provide some investment funds to Soo Cheol for the project he is working on. Mandae agrees, not realizing that this is part of a plan to take him down. Eun Song and his friends plan to ruin Mandae's reputation, then buy as many Queen shares as possible when the price drops, so that Eun Song can become the largest shareholder in the group. Haein and Hyen Woo return to Korea, and now they are enemies. Haein vows to make Hyen Woo miserable for all his betrayals. In the midst of all this, Hyen Woo visits Mandae to explain that his previous wiretapping accusation was false and he has no intention of dropping him. Mandae believes him, but they have to find the mastermind behind all this chaos. At the same time, Eun Song intercepts their conversation and immediately takes steps to secure his plan. Elsewhere, Byung-ja discovers that Sul Hee is a con artist and ex-con. However, Mande is not suspicious of her because he has been in a relationship with her for a long time. Byumja feels compelled to hide certain secrets until he has enough evidence to take action. At Haeyin's residence, he shows the prepared divorce documents to Hyen Woo, stating he will submit them at the right time. Hyen Woo agrees, but asks Haeyin to keep his distance from Eun Song, who he suspects is up to no good. Haeyin also threatened to take legal action if necessary. Even as an adult, Soo Cheol decides to learn to ride a bicycle, an activity his mother never allowed him to do after losing her first child. His overprotective mother always spoiled her youngest child. When Soo Cheol falls off his bike, his mother immediately scolds him, but Soo Cheol explains that he wants to be able to teach his future son things he never did, a confession that touches Dahai. Meanwhile, it seems that Eun Song and his team are preparing for their final mission. Haeyin's parents suspect that Hyen Woo wants a divorce because of infidelity, but no evidence is found by the detective they hired. Haeyin finds out that Hyen Woo has sent money and flowers to someone. He follows the trail and finds himself at a funeral home, where Hyen Woo apparently sends flowers as a form of condolence on Haeyin's behalf to an employee whose mother died of cancer. Elsewhere, Sulhee visits Eun Song, who turns out to be her daughter. They had planned this power struggle for a long time. Their plan hinges on Mande having to leave his children behind. However, Eun Song realizes that he still loves his family. To overcome this, Sulhee tries to win Mande's heart and trust so he can take over his wealth. 4 years ago, Haeyin and Hyen Woo had a date at an aquarium. Hyen Woo is suspicious because there are no other visitors, but it is later revealed that Haeyin has rented the entire place secretly. He even threatened the guards to play romantic music, hoping to create the perfect date atmosphere. His efforts were successful, and Hyen Woo proposed to Haeyin romantically at that time. Now, Haeyin's condition is getting worse. Not only did he experience hallucinations, but he also began to lose some of his memory. In an unexpected moment, Hyen Woo discovers something while playing with a cat, but he has no memory of his divorce. When Haeyin expressed his deep love for her, Hyen Woo was moved to tears and hugged her. Even though he still talked about lost memories and their divorce, Hyen Woo, with hidden intentions, wants Haeyin to remain in a state of anger to give him a reason to persist and have the urge to take revenge. Hyen Woo then leaves the queen's residence and meets with Haeyin and his lawyer, Vincenzo, a lawyer with a strong mafia reputation. They reach an agreement regarding the terms of the divorce, and with that, the marriage between Haeyin and Hyen Woo officially ends. Haeyin, who got information from her family's spies, knows several places Hyen Woo often visits. When he arrives at a restaurant, he overhears Hyen Woo confessing about his desire to stay with Haeyin. After conducting an investigation, Eun Song finds out that Haeyin is taking anti-cancer drugs, which makes him very sad. In a flashback, it is revealed that while at the orphanage, Haeyin was saved by Eun Song from being chased by a wild dog, and Eun Song found Haeyin's necklace, which he then kept as a memory. Eun Song has a deep love for Haeyin, but he feels unworthy of her. Therefore, he is determined to win the queen, so he can approach her, win her heart, and love her wholeheartedly. However, this ambition makes him greedy and does not hesitate to use any means to achieve his goals. On the other hand, Hyen Woo finds evidence that shows that Eun Song is Sulhee's daughter and begins to suspect something is wrong. He continues to protect the queen's family even though they have done bad things to him. He tries to thwart Eun Song's plan to invest in Soo Cheol, knowing that it is a trap. Unfortunately, this time Mande didn't support him and instead kicked him out. Hyen Woo finally teams up with Byumja to take down Sulhee. Their search leads them to an orphanage run by the Queen Group, where they discover the surprising fact that Sulhee was once imprisoned for adultery and gave birth to Eun Song. She sends her son to an orphanage and then approaches Mande to improve his social status. Sulhee designs a scholarship for Eun Song, which leads to her adoption by a family in America. After completing his education, Eun Song lost his adoptive parents. Mande, caught in Sulhee's scheme, appoints her as his legal guardian. giving her the right to make decisions on her behalf. Byumja, after finding something suspicious, tries to convince his father but is unsuccessful and instead gets harsh treatment. In an emotional state, Byumja collects a sample of Sulhe's hair for DNA testing with Unsong. Elsewhere, Grace plans Dahai and her child's escape to America, allowing them to disappear without a trace. Sucheol, who loved his family very much, is devastated by their sudden departure. Hyeon-woo, who tried to reveal the truth about Sulhe and Unsong to Mandae, was too late because Sulhe had already taken action to immobilize Mandae and reveal his plan. The queens gather at the hospital, but Sulhe forbids them from visiting Mandae. Everyone then finds out that Sulhe has full authority over Mandae's decisions, including company affairs. Unsong, who has accumulated shares of the company, takes control. As a result, the queen's family lost everything. Grace shows her true colors by expelling the queens and freezing all assets on Sulhe's orders. Hyeon-woo once again becomes a savior by bringing the queen's family to his hometown, a place that the queen's family previously looked down on, but now they are warmly welcomed. The queen's family must adapt to their new life, while Sucheol feels tormented by his wife's rejection. This situation provides an opportunity for Hae-in and Hyeon-woo to repair their relationship. Hae-in realizes that he once met Hyeon-woo on his last day of school in South Korea, where he lost his music player, which was later found by Hyeon-woo. Hyeon-woo has kept the music player, signifying his long-standing love for Hae-in, who turns out to be his first love. Hyeon-woo returns to Seoul, pretending not to know about the queen's situation. Executives couldn't fire him, so he stayed on the job. He takes advantage of this to look for evidence against Unsong, starting by looking for the person responsible for the car's record restoration. Unsong, realizing this, throws the person out to remove any traces. Grace is disappointed to learn that Unsong and her mother have no plans to help her replace Hae-in as CEO. This creates a dilemma for Grace. On the other hand, Sucheol reads the letter Dahai left behind, revealing her true age and family background, as well as the fact that Jeon-woo is not her biological child. Sucheol, heartbroken, cries in front of Hae-in, who tries to comfort him. Hae-in experiences hallucinations and faints, worrying everyone except her mother. Byumja tries to persuade Hae-in's mother to be kinder to her daughter, but in vain. Hyeon-woo plans to sue Unsong for investment fraud and uses a stock strategy to take over Queens again. He also tracks down a broker working for Unsong, but because the broker is avoiding legal summons, Hyeon-woo has to confront him head-on and turn him over to the police. Unsong finds out about Hae-in's illness and pays someone to find her in Hyeon-woo's hometown. Unsong threatens Hae-in to return to Seoul, or he will reveal her condition to her parents. Sucheol is angry at Unsong for being cheated and losing his family's fortune. When Sucheol asks about Dahai, Unsong doesn't answer. Later, Unsong ends cooperation with Dahai, who asks about Sucheol. Unsong lies that Sucheol is angry and wants revenge. Sucheol cries alone, calling out his wife's name. Hae-in keeps Unsong's arrival a secret while tending to Hyeon-woo's wounds. The next day, as they enjoy ice cream, Hae-in says if they had broken up sooner, Hyeon-woo would have found someone better. However, Hyeon-woo insists that he would make the same decision and choose Hae-in again. At the office, Hyeon-woo experiences a demotion due to unfounded accusations, which leaves him isolated from his coworkers. Hae-in, who heard about this situation from her old secretary, was angry that her ex-husband was treated this way. Unsong sees this as an opportunity to offer Hae-in a deal, promising to restore Hyeon-woo's good name if Hae-in is willing to return to Seoul and work at the company as before. Hyeon-woo's father, who failed to become village head, feels uneasy about the changes taking place around him, including at his brother's gym. Sucheol, who coincidentally remembered the online games that Dahai often played, discovered that she had just been online a few hours ago. On the other hand, Hae-in's mother is forced to work in the fields with her sister-in-law to earn a living, but at least she can sleep peacefully without the help of drugs. After a full day of hard work, Hyen-woo's mother realized something was wrong with Hae-in's condition. Hyen-woo also told the truth about what happened and asked his mother to keep it a secret. Hyen-woo's mother felt sad and, as a woman, she blamed Hyen-woo for ever trying to leave his wife in difficult times. Hyen-woo admits his mistake and begs his mother to take care of Hae-in his absence. Since then, Hyen-woo's mother has paid more attention to her former daughter-in-law and looked after her with great affection. After waiting patiently, Soo-cheol finally finds Dahae online in a game and sends her a message. Instead of getting angry, he gave instructions about his child's vaccinations and how to put him to sleep soundly. This makes Dahae remember Soo-cheol's tenderness and concern for her and their child, which makes her shed tears and reflect on her actions. Hae-in again clashes with her mother, who accuses her of conspiring with Eun-sung after seeing them meet. Hae-in ignores the accusations and immediately heads to Seoul to meet Eun-sung and arrange a press conference. Hyen-woo only found out about the press conference when the event had already started. Eun-sung announces Hae-in's return to her original position at the company, but Hae-in takes an unexpected step by revealing Eun-sung's threat and her terminal illness. His statement shocked the public and his family, who finally learned what he had experienced. When Hae-in tries to approach Hyen-woo, she collapses with a heart-wrenching sound, revealing that she doesn't want to die in such a state, hasn't had time to express her feelings, and that she never hated her husband. He hopes to live longer and thanks Hyen-woo for always being there for him. In the ICU, Hyen-woo cries for her, while Hae-in's family arrives in panic and regret. Hae-in's parents struggle to accept their daughter's illness, with her father blaming himself for his lack of attention. Soo-cheol, in front of Hyen-woo, cries because he feels guilty for making a talisman that weakens his brother's energy. After tearing the amulet, Hae-in accidentally wakes up. Before leaving, he apologizes to Soo-cheol and confesses his love for Hyen-woo, regretting not being able to make her happy, especially because of his family. Hae-in wants to convey what's in her heart before it's too late, because she doesn't know when death will come. Hyen-woo tells Hae-in that he has spent the night praying for her recovery, comforting her with the promise that he will always be there for her. When Hae-in's family comes to see her, her mother feels very guilty and devastated because of her harsh treatment of Hae-in. He feels unable to face his daughter, regretting how he projected his grief over losing his first child onto Hae-in. Hae-in overhears a conversation between Hyen-woo and his mother full of regret. Lovingly, he approached his mother, comforting her even in a slightly haughty manner, and her mother apologized repeatedly before they embraced in tears. Man-dae, who finally emerges from his coma, experiences dementia. The public, sympathetic after the press conference, begins to support the Queen's family, putting Eun-sung and her mother's position at risk. They try to find Man-dae's secret funds to buy the remaining Queen's shares and maintain their dominance over the group of companies. Hae-in talks to Eun-sung, who is still trying to win her heart. In the past, Hae-in had broken off relations with Eun-sung during college because of his obsession and toxic affection. After this conversation, Eun-sung confronts Hyen-woo, who hits him and warns him not to approach Hae-in again. Eun-sung begins looking for Man-dae's secret funds, but Hae-in and Hyen-woo realize his intentions and plan to find the treasure first. Eun-sung tries to bring down Hyen-woo at the company once again, but to no avail. Eun-sung, irritated by Hyen-woo's incessant interventions, calls the broker he once worked with to eliminate Hyen-woo. Even though he was detained by the police, the broker managed to escape and is committed to completing his task well this time. Meanwhile, the atmosphere calms down for a moment when the family celebrates Hae-in's return from the hospital by having dinner together. Soo-cheol, who feels the need to become stronger after the incident with Eun-sung, decides to learn boxing with his older brother, Hyen-woo. The Queen's family and Hyen-woo form a team to find Man-dae's secret funds. Grace, forced to cooperate due to Hyen-woo's threat to report his illegal activities, eventually discovers that Mande's slush funds come from an art gallery that is used as a money laundering facility. After reviewing CCTV footage, they discovered that the funds were hidden in the family's Queens residence. At night, Hae-in experiences hallucinations where she sees Eun-sung's face change into Hyun-woo's face. Hyun-woo chases Hae-in, who was taken away by Eun-sung in a tense chase. Hae-in wakes up, but she pretends not to be having hallucinations so that Hyun-woo doesn't worry about her worsening illness. He also pretended to agree to go with Eun-sung to meet his grandfather at the Queen's residence. However, that night, Hyun-woo was arrested by the broker on Eun-sung's orders. Elsewhere, Dahae receives an unexpected visit from a former Queen's company employee who turns out to be Jeon-woo's biological father. The man is rude and insensitive, and has planned to blame Soo Cheol for his illegal actions at the company. Dahae feels sorry for Soo Cheol and starts to worry about the situation. During dinner, Eun-sung expresses his feelings about being abandoned at an orphanage by his mother and how he once protected Hae-in from stray dogs there, and kept her necklace as a memory. Hae-in met her grandfather and left a pen with a voice recorder hidden in his room. After Hae-in leaves, Eun-sung and Sul-hee have a disagreement. Sul-hee worries that Eun-sung's relationship with Hae-in could threaten their positions, but Eun-sung cares more about winning Hae-in's heart than wealth. Hyun-woo comes to pick up his ex-wife at the Queen's residence. Eun-sung gets angry at the broker who failed to eliminate Hyun-woo, but Hyun-woo manages to convince the broker that Eun-sung will throw him away once the job is done. Hyun-woo insists that the broker will only face fraud charges, but murder will result in a long prison sentence. Realizing this, the broker frees Hyun-woo. Hyun-woo took his ex-wife to the apartment where he lived, and they spent the night until morning peacefully. Meanwhile, Soo Cheol practices boxing. Dahae argues with Jeon-woo's biological father about a stolen golden Buddha statue, which almost endangers Jeon-woo, making Dahae abandon her escape plan. Grace, who is unfaithful, tells Sul-hee and Eun-sung about the existence of Mande's slush fund in the Queen's residence. In the midst of the twilight atmosphere in Hyun-woo's hometown, he invites Hae-in to enjoy the beauty of the red sky. At that moment, Hyun-woo offered Hae-in a ring, hoping that they could cancel their divorce proceedings. However, Hae-in reluctantly refuses, revealing to Hyun-woo that her deteriorating health condition makes it difficult for her to separate illusion from reality. On the other hand, it was revealed that Mande was conscious and only pretended to swallow the medicine given by Sul-hee. Meanwhile, the Queen's family is discussing the location of the hidden funds. Hae-in, who had heard her grandfather mention an underground gurney, realized that although the family had known about the fund, its true location was still a mystery. That night, Soo Cheol meets Dahae, who has returned with a golden Buddha statue, and Jeon-woo. Dahae apologized and returned all the money she took, except for the one she had used for her trip to America. Even though Hae-in's mother is angry at her presence, Soo Cheol continues to defend Dahae and insists that Jeon-woo is her child. Dahae expresses regret for her treatment of Soo Cheol and admits that Soo Cheol was the first person to treat her lovingly. She returns with the intention of correcting her mistakes and feels unworthy of returning to Soo Cheol's arms, but Soo Cheol insists that they must stay together. Meanwhile, Eun-sung and her mother search the entire house for secret funds. However, at the same time, Sul-hee finds out that Mande has recovered and is only pretending to have amnesia. Cornered with no choice, Mande records something using the recording pen Hae-in left behind and makes the tragic decision to end his own life. The next day, a tragic fate befell Mande, who was found dead after falling down a flight of stairs. This incident resulted in Sul-hee losing control of her power, paving the way for the Queens to reclaim their residence and wealth. In the process of preparing for the funeral, the Queen's family accidentally found their way to the safe that was mentioned previously. However, Sul-hee and Eun-sung had already found and moved the contents of the safe. Hae-in finds a pen that holds a secret and listens to the message recorded in it. Mande expresses his gratitude to Hae-in for giving him the opportunity to speak. Before his death, He expressed regret for focusing too much on wealth during his life and hoped that his family could live a more meaningful life without regrets. The queen's family attends Mande's funeral, and everyone is devastated by his passing. With Sulhi having lost her power, the queens have the opportunity to take back their shares, giving them a chance to control the company if they can exceed the number of shares held by Song and her mother. More good news comes from a hospital in Germany that has developed a new medical procedure that could help Haein. However, there are serious consequences to be faced after the operation, where Haein will lose all her memory. Haein Woo, knowing this, only shares the information with his ex-in-laws and father, asking them to keep the consequences of the surgery a secret for fear that Haein will refuse the procedure. Haein Woo decides to tell Haein after they arrive in Germany. However, the whole family is relieved that Haein has a chance to recover. Haein's relationship with her mother slowly improves, and after spending time together in the Queen's village, they are finally able to reconcile with Haein Woo's family. Haein reveals to Haein Woo that the music player he found at school is his, and Haein Woo is shocked to realize that Haein is his first love. With all the happiness that happened, Haein decided not to divorce Haein Woo, and they started living a new life like a married couple. Amidst his desire to be independent, Sucheol chooses to stay in the village with his family, while the others return to their homes in Seoul. On the other hand, Song begins to use hidden funds to acquire Queen's shares. In response, Haein Woo plans to report the illegal activity to legal authorities and gather more evidence to take down Song. However, a broker who works for Song is found dead in his car. Grace, who is still acting as an informant for Sulhi because of the promise of a share of the hidden funds, tells Sulhi about Haein's upcoming operation, and Song overhears their conversation. Haein's father tells his wife about the impact the surgery will have on their daughter, and Haein Woo's father does the same with his family, leaving Sucheol shocked and devastated. In a video made for Haein's future, Haein Woo expresses his deep love and commitment to staying by her side, even if Haein no longer remembers him. Haein Woo insists that he can't live without Haein and will continue to fight for her, no matter what. After arriving at the hospital in Germany, Haein Woo reveals to Haein the consequences he will face after the operation. The news makes Haein feel frustrated and confused, as if she has to choose between difficult choices. If that had to happen, Haein would prefer to die and preserve her beautiful memories. Haein Woo, who cannot lie, believes that Haein has the right to know the truth and make her own decisions about her life. Despite this, Haein Woo really hopes that Haein will go through with the operation and live on, even if it means losing her memory. Meanwhile, after learning what happened to Haein, Song decides to follow her to Germany, even though Sulhi is strongly against her going. Song is confident that after Haein loses her memory, she will be given another chance. Sulhi warns that Song will lose her position if she continues to act like this, but Song insists that she will not stop pursuing what she wants. Haein Woo tries to persuade Haein to undergo surgery, but she continues to refuse, insisting that she wants to remain herself and die as herself. When the whole family tries to persuade him over the phone, Haein finally realizes how much effort Haein Woo has put into seeking medical help from hospitals around the world. He had sent hundreds of emails and kept contacting important figures who could save Haein, which was how he found the hospital in Germany. Another reason why Haein doesn't want to lose her memory is because she is worried that her relationship with her mother will be strained again. Haein overhears everyone crying when they forget to disconnect the call. Grace realizes that Sulhi has a plan to eliminate everyone, including Dahai. He also learns of Sulhi's plans that might endanger Haein in Germany. Even though Sulhi has given some of the slush funds to her, Grace cannot use the funds without Sulhi's approval. Finally, Grace gives Haein Woo a hint about the potential dangers that await in Germany. Haein Woo, sensing something is wrong, rushes to the car where he left Haein. Not long after that, a truck speeded up and hit the car. In a panic, Haein Woo breaks the window, worried that Haein is trapped inside. However, Heian has gone to buy a four-leaf clover, which is believed to bring good luck. Seeing Hyen-woo crying because of worry, Heian felt very sad and decided to undergo surgery to avoid deeper sadness. In Korea, Jeon-woo's father threatens Dahae with prison for Soo-cheol unless she meets him. Dahae agrees and plans a trip to the amusement park with Soo-cheol and her son. At the park, Dahae quietly disappears with her son, leaving Soo-cheol in sadness. When someone laughs at Soo-cheol, calling him a loser who was abandoned by his partner, Dahae can't stand it and screams that her husband is a great person and not worth mocking. Unable to leave Soo-cheol, Dahae returns to his arms. Before her memories fade, Heian explores the city, remembering the moment of her last goodbye to her brother and smiling before returning to the hospital. There, he has prepared a journal full of memories for Hyen-woo to read later. However, things go awry when Heian's operation begins. Hyen-woo is arrested by Interpol on murder charges. Simultaneously, Eun-sung appears at the hospital and takes over the procedure. When Heian woke up, Eun-sung, who was by her side, began to compose false stories to improve her image and tarnish Heian's family name, especially Hyen-woo. Eun-sung even deleted Heian's journal and reported her family on charges of embezzling funds, so they couldn't fly to Germany. With her manipulated memories, Heian returns to Korea, completely under Eun-sung's influence and trusting no one. Even worse, he agrees to marry Eun-sung, believing that she is the one who has helped him a lot. Eun-sung learns that her mother was responsible for the attack in Germany that endangered Heian and threatens her mother with a recording that reveals her crime. Even though Heian's memories had been altered, her heart felt something different. Driven by curiosity, Heian visits Hyen-woo in prison, who was arrested on charges of murdering a broker who worked with Eun-sung. Heian was sure that her ex-husband was a criminal who only wanted her money and was cheating on her. But her feelings began to change when she saw the sadness in Hyen-woo's eyes. Luckily, with the help of Byung-ja and his trusted people, Hyen-woo was exonerated and out of prison. Heian, accompanied by his former secretary, begins to follow Hyen-woo, and the more he learns, the more evidence there is that Hyen-woo is actually a good person, contrary to Eun-sung's story. Meanwhile, Dahae meets her ex-partner who Sul-hee had assigned to arrest her. Sul-hee wants to eliminate Dahae so she can't testify about her crime, but Soo-cheol manages to save her. In a critical moment, using the boxing skills he had learned, he managed to fend off the villain's attacks until Hyen-woo's older brother came to help. The situation changes drastically when Eun-sung is threatened with losing his position due to a fund embezzlement scandal. Hyen-woo and his team gather evidence that strengthens the case against Eun-sung, supported by Dahae's testimony. As a result, Dahae must face the legal consequences of her actions. Heian accepts the invitation she made herself to visit the aquarium she prepared before the surgery, and Hyen-woo is also invited to the same place. There, Hyen-woo encourages a confused Heian to question everything and stay away from Eun-sung, who has been manipulating her. Heian's doubts increase when she receives a package from Germany containing her nearly burned diary, which is returned by the hospital staff. After reading the diary, some memories about Hyen-woo come back to Heian, and she immediately looks for Hyen-woo to meet him. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Heian disappears just as they are about to cross the street, and Hyen-woo is hit by a car. Eun-sung locks up Heian and displays obsessive behavior, but Heian finds a way to avoid danger by pretending to join Eun-sung's games. Eun-sung tells him that a helicopter is coming to take them to America. Meanwhile, the seriously injured Hyen-woo fights to stay alive to save Heian. It is revealed that Sul-hee was responsible for Heian's older sister's death, and little Eun-sung hid this to protect her mother, hoping for a better life if she succeeded in controlling the queen's fortune. However, this hope never came true, even after Eun-sung grew up, which made him no longer care about his mother. At the same time, Heian overhears a conversation between Eun-sung and her mother about her brother's death, which shocks her. With help from his acquaintances, Hyen-woo manages to find Heian and save her. A desperate Unsong looks for them and, upon seeing them together, grabs a hunting rifle and chases them. However, the police arrive to arrest Unsong. Unsong begs Hae-in to come with him, but Hae-in refuses. Feeling unable to have Hae-in, Unsong tries to take drastic measures, but Hae-in-woo protects Hae-in. The police then shot Unsong, who eventually died from his injuries. At a crucial moment, Hae-in-woo was rushed to the hospital, and at the same time, it was revealed that Hae-in-woo was the hero who had saved Hae-in in the past. This truth emerges when Hae-in's mother finds an old photo showing Hae-in-woo on the same beach where Hae-in had been, and Hae-in-woo's heroic story of saving a girl who almost drowned. Hae-in's mother felt very sorry for misjudging her daughter and hating her all this time. Now, Hae-in-woo is once again Hae-in's savior, and luckily, her life is saved. After several days passed, Hae-in-woo regained consciousness and his family felt very relieved and happy. At the same time, Dahae proposes to surrender herself to Grace as a strategic move to overthrow Sul-hee. For the first time, Grace decided to follow her heart and try to improve herself by accepting this advice. Soo-cheol tries to convince Dahae not to leave him, and Dahae admits that she has liked Soo-cheol since they first met at the orphanage. Therefore, Dahae wants to take responsibility for her mistakes by turning herself in to the police so that she can start a better life. Soo-cheol respects Dahae's decision, and they share an emotional moment by hugging. Meanwhile, Sul-hee seems to have lost her way because she is obsessed with wealth. Instead of mourning the loss of his son, he was busy arranging the sale of his shares to make a profit as quickly as possible. Hae-in-woo explains that even though Sul-hee owns more shares, the shares were purchased with unauthorized funds, and they have the right to sue them. Finally, the Queen's family files a lawsuit against Sul-hee for fraud, Mandae's murder, and the boat accident that caused the death of Hae-in's sister. Dahae and Grace provide testimony that corroborates the case, and Hae-in reveals Sul-hee's role in the boat accident that took her brother's life as well as her responsibility for her grandfather's death. Video footage showing Sul-hee drugging Mandae is also revealed, shocking everyone. In the end, Sul-hee was arrested, and the queens managed to defend their rights. After overcoming difficult times, Hae-in and Hae-in-woo return to their original positions, starting a new chapter in their lives with a promise not to hate or hurt each other, and to always support each other no matter what happens. Although Hae-in agrees to get engaged to Hae-in-woo, she needs time to fully accept this change, especially having recently recovered from amnesia. Several years pass, and everyone enjoys a happy ending. Dahae is released from prison and reunited with Soo-cheol and their child. Grace feels honored that the Queen's family still accepts her. After spending time in Hae-in-woo's hometown, Beomja finds her true love and feels very happy. Hae-in-woo's older brother's boxing gym thrives, while Hae-in and Hae-in-woo's parents become closer and develop a harmonious in-law relationship. Hae-in-woo and Hae-in get married and are blessed with a daughter, living a life full of happiness and often spending time together. Their story ends decades later, with an elderly Hae-in-woo visiting the grave of Hae-in, his first and last love, reflecting on the long life journey they have traveled together. And this is the end of this story.